Hey everybody, how's it going? On today's video, we are going to be talking about a lit RPG series that I recently got into and that I have really enjoyed. And it is the first book, and that first book is called Mark of the Fool. Now, this is written by J.M. Clark, narrated by none other than Travis Baldree, and the audiobook length is 19 hours on the dot. So, a good bit of time and a good bit of story to get through, and that is just an amazing experience. I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about the story, but if you want the summary from the author themselves, then go into the description of this video, hit that link, and you will go and be transported to Audible's page for Mark of the Fool Book 1. You will get the summary, you will go ahead and get the sample from Audible, and then you could possibly be jumping into a whole new series that you just really enjoy. So yeah, I'm here to just go ahead and talk to you about it and hopefully do one of two things: get you into a new series that you've been maybe on the fence for, or just haven't listened to it all or heard about it all, and on the other end, maybe get a series that you were interested in, but what I've talked about it doesn't tickle your fancy, so it is something that you don't want. So I save you a credit, some money, and time, which I am love doing either way, finding you a new series or saving you some time and money. So let's go ahead and jump into this audiobook series called Mark of the Fool Book 1. We find ourselves with Alex Roth. Alex is someone that has had tragedy and misfortune happen in his life. His parents died in a fire, and he is trying to take care of himself and his sister. Luckily, there was a family friend that took them in with their family, and he didn't just get to mooch off them, but he had to work. He had to find himself what's his next on his path, and he does that. He is working in a bakery with a tyrant that he doesn't like too much, but at the same time he is working on magic because he wants to go to a prestigious magic school, and he just works and works and works on it. So at the time that we're introduced to Alex, he has successfully been accepted into this magic school with a partial scholarship, and he is about to turn 18 and gain the wealth from his parents after they have passed. They weren't able to get to it until he was out of age, adulthood, and that is 18 years old. And the other thing that's going on in the background is Alex is almost 18, and also this 100-year curse called the Ravener is coming about. So people are kind of like, well, I guess no one really knows until the mark happens, or people are saying like, hey, it's right around the corner, because once the Ravener comes to light, and he brings all these monsters, these creatures that specifically are from it, but there are these marks that are also given out to combat the Ravener. And there is the hero, the chosen, the sage. There's all these marks that give people more power, more skills, more abilities to fight off and eventually destroy until the next 100 years comes about, and that person then has to fight that person again. And there's also one mark that people specifically like hate or don't find any value in, and that's the Mark of the Fool. The Fool can't do magic. The Fool can't do combat. He can learn and be a particularly strong component of the team of heroes that are trying to defeat the Ravener, and but just the Fool is never looked kindly upon, and it's never good when you are the Fool. People have deserted, people have come and just died early in this crusade, or they haven't amounted to much, even if they do survive, and Alex definitely didn't want that mark if that came about. But yeah, so he's on his 18th birthday, he is getting his inheritance, getting ready to go to the magic school, and then all of a sudden on that day, when he is the day that he was at the moment he was birthed, I guess, he receives a mark, and he freaks out because he's like, I don't want a part of this, I don't want anything to do with this. And then he gets a mark, and he's freaking out because he wonders which one. He's hoping for the sage because that's like more magic, more what he's trying to do. and he sees the mark of the fool on his shoulder, and he freaks out. He's like, no, this is everything that is like screwing up my plans. I'm supposed to go into a war that I can't fight in, and the one thing I'm going to is a magical academy, and with this mark, people say that you're not allowed to use magic. So Alex, after he gets this mark and he's freaking out, he's trying to, figure out what he's going to do next. And then he figures out, like, well, let's test if I can at least do magic. And he can do magic. It's a lot harder, but he can still do magic. So he's wondering, like, well, what other things can I do that people say I can't do? And he starts, noting and writing all this down. And now he needs to figure out, okay, well, all these crazy priests are after me now, because once the marks are given, then these priests are trying to gather up all these heroes of legend and get them to the capital of this country and then have them fight this Ravener and basically, get them to a peaceful state once again. And he didn't want anything to do with that, especially when he got the mark of the fool. He was like, you guys are just like, life is giving me nothing. And so I don't want any of this. So he was going to just be, he was like saying to himself, like, well, I guess I'm going to be one of those fools that just deserts and, goes off. So that is kind of like a very rough summary of everything that's going on in Alex Roth's life in the beginning of Mark of the Fool. Again, if you want a very, probably better summary, then go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get that off of Audible from the author. But we're going to go ahead and do some pros, do some cons, and what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it. And hopefully if it's for you or if it's not for you. But yeah, it was a very interesting story. But I really liked Alex, and every time they talk and how he's like just been, and I'll go into more with the pros, but like more of the adversities of that life gives him. He's like, I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to go ahead and adapt and overcome. And it's just a very interesting and likable character. I mean, I like him personally. But yeah, so let's go ahead and after that intense, summary that I've given, let's talk about some of the pros that I liked about this series. One, let's go ahead and talk about Alex. Alex is a great character. He is a character that just doesn't take it, and he is someone that wants to continually overcome for what he's got. Later in this first book, he decides the mark is, problematic, but it's not impossible to do magic. It's hard to fight, but it's not impossible. So he's always trying to figure out what the mark is reacting to and isn't reacting to. And he's weaving through all the priests so they don't find him and make his life, a living hell, where he's like, I don't want to do this, but you guys are making me to. I want to live my own life and do my own thing. And so he's grabbing his sister and his best friend, and they're traveling to go to the Wizarding City. His friend is looking for adventure, and she is like really pumped about, seeing more of the world. And his sister is just along for the ride because he still wants to take care of her and use the inheritance from his parents to give her a good life. So he's a very resilient character and interesting, and how he looks at things. And sometimes it's like, I don't know, the mark does fit him a lot because he's doing what he can, and he is doing it well, and he's overcoming and doing things in a creative way to kind of combat the mark. But yeah, I really enjoy Alex's character and all the adventures that he's going on. Next is the magic itself is interesting. There's not really levels in this lit RPG series, but there's just experience and kind of gaining the know-how to do things. And the other characters that Alex is kind of interacting with along the way in his journey, it's very interesting, and it's cool to see some of the characters that they've described: beast folk, shark folk. There's a character called Grimlock that I'm very interested to see if he sticks around in the story. But it's very well written and really interesting. I just really love the story and how Alex is handling everything and how everything is kind of coming together. And he gets to a point in the story where he is always discovering things, and he discovered a big secret that the Ravener doesn't want people to know. And so he's like, now he doesn't know this yet, but like this great evil is now trying to track him down and kill him because he knows something that shouldn't be known. Because no one has ever discovered how to destroy this great evil that comes around every century. And he's just like, then he stumbles upon it and he wants to know more. And, no, the Revenant does not want that. So he's trying to find him and basically take care of him. But yeah, so interesting character, great MC. Isn't given ultimate power. Even sometimes with the Mark, there's still people that outperform him with a bunch of stuff. He still has to, gain power and experience like everybody else, even though he has this crazy gift that he starts looking at not as a curse, but a gift that is giving him a leg up on other people. But he still has to work hard, and it's kind of nice that, doesn't just get this power and he's like, everything's easy peasy and all that jazz. But yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I always like the other characters too, because they're what's brought upon by them and their experiences and their strengths and weaknesses. So it's really cool. But yeah, other than some of those cons or some of those pros, I just really enjoyed the series. I know I didn't talk about too many pros, but this was just altogether just a well written story that nothing's too long, nothing's too forced. So it's just something that I would highly recommend someone to look into that is looking for another great lit RPG series. And Travis Baldree does always a great time narrating, and so it was just another bang up job with this audiobook. So yeah, there's another plus for that. I would say some of the cons, again, this is one of the ones that I'm kind of really biased about. I really enjoyed the series. I guess if you don't really find Alex's keep pushing on attitude kind of like appealing, then maybe that's a ding to this series. Or this character can't directly go into combat, but I think in book 2 it's going to change a little bit because of his Mark. But there's definitely some things that are interesting that are coming about, and how Alex is trying to maneuver around the Mark and its hindrances, and only trying to use it for its the pros and what he can get from it. So it's definitely interesting. It was definitely I feel like this first one was setting up the whole wider series of Mark of the Fool, and because definitely at the end you get to hear certain things that are happening in the background that Alex doesn't really know about, but it's just something that is just really interesting, and this series is just really interesting. So again, I don't really have cons. If you go ahead and you do your own research and there are just some things that you don't like about it, or maybe you don't like what I've said so far about this series, and it's something that you don't want someone that has to always kind of think trickly, I guess, or always think how to overcome a way that is kind of straightforward. So if that's something that is if you don't want something that's like a Primal Hunter, or if you want something more like a Primal Hunter where you're just going and fighting and nothing's getting in your way too much, this series might not be for you, because again, Alex is constantly having to figure out how to deal with multiple things. But I personally enjoy those stories where nothing is straightforward and you have to go ahead and figure it out, and no one's giving it to you on a silver platter. You gotta do the work, which is what Alex is always doing in this series. He's always putting in the work, always trying to figure out how to get a better handle on things and keep people that he care about safe. So yeah, that was a little bit what I had on Mark of the Fool Book 1. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe got interested enough to go check it out on Audible and give it a listen to, and maybe give a credit or some money and jump on into it. And if I saved you some time because of all that I'm coming out and saying is something that you don't want, I'm glad with that too, because I want to, with all these videos, I want to get you into a new series and have you enjoy someone else's writing, or I wanted to save you from a series that you might not enjoy, save you credit, time, and money, so you don't have to, be regretful on that point. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it sparked some interest. And again, Mark of the Fool is just a great series so far. I know I'm only in book 1, but I really enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you are getting up to in audiobook, or even just reading normal books, not audiobooks, in the comments, because I always am interested in a new lit RPG or just a new story in general. Again, I don't do too well with just reading the series. But I am doing one on Royal Road called Runesmith. It's a great series. I really enjoyed it. Another character that is just trying to, get isekai into a magical world, and he's trying to get himself on his own 2 feet. And it's just a great, that storyline of just dealing with what you've been dealt and making it work to the point where you're now ahead of the game is something that really appeals to me. But yeah, just let me know what you've been reading or listening to, and I would love to check out those series for myself. So without further ado, I will let you go and let you get back to your readings, and I'll get back to my readings. So yeah, well, until next time, we'll talk to you guys later, okay? Toodles!